All right. Okay. So thank you everyone for joining this session. And today in this session we will be covering the new capabilities of UiPath apps, which is Autopilot, Visual Basic expressions in UiPath apps, HTML, CSS, JavaScript integration, and Action Center integration. So all these capabilities that you see here, right? So these are recently introduced, and uh, we will be covering how these capabilities can really enhance the way we used to create the UiPath apps dashboard, and we will also have some demo as well. We'll have some walkthrough session, and then at last we'll have a Q&A as well. So, speaking about the speakers for this session, myself Umesh Sharma, and I'm currently working in the capacity of RPA Tech Lead with the Silicon Partners. Uh, I have Faiz with me.
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Faiz and I'm working as a RPA Senior Technical Consultant. So I've been working with the Silicon Partner for past 3 years. And you feel free to reach out to me and Umesh after this session if you like to know more about the UiPath application. So we are very happy to help you. So the agenda of this session, we are going to cover, so we will start from overview. So we will cover Autopilot, VBApps, HTML. Like Umesh said, we have to cover all these things. The second, that is the prerequisite that is required. That is nothing that UiPath access and the document understanding license is also required for Autopilot. And if you are very enthusiastic to front-end designing, so this session is only for you. And we will try to make the session more interactive by uh, by developing the application in front of so that you can have a look like how we are navigating this, because we are also the UiPath hackathon champion and we also have presented some ideas to the community. So we also have developed the UiPath application 2 years back. And so moving to the next slide. So UiPath application. So UiPath application is a low code application platform. And low code means like UiPath itself builds some components for you, similar to the VB Visual Basic, like text boxes, labels, tables, and many more components are there. So you need to just drag and drop the components and write your action or code over there as per your requirement. So, and UiPath just introduced some other capabilities you can see here. That is Action Center, Autopilot for apps, and connection form integration services, custom HTML control. That is very interesting topic we are going to cover here. And we will build the solution with HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. And the last is custom list. That is not the limit. We have more capabilities over there. Once we move further, then you have a look on the new capabilities. So autopilot for UiPath apps. So UiPath gives you the ability, you can use the natural language, like prompt, you can write the prompt to create any applications, right? And you can also have a capabilities like you can upload images. Images like can have the wireframe. If you're going to build any enterprise application for client or your in-house application, right? You can draw a wireframe by your hand or maybe using system as well, and you can upload the images and PDF copy of that wireframe. UiPath will apply some ML model in the backend engines, and it will prepare some application, not the same, but it will try to replicate the same things. And you can do fine tuning, and you can connect with different UiPath offering like data services and all. And you can leverage the application by using the natural language and or also uploading the images and wireframing. So later we will show you like how we can develop the application or we can leverage the autopilot apps. So enhancing UiPath apps capabilities, like every front-end applications are required some styling, like you can use the HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. If you talk about the UiPath initial launch, like back in 2022, so there were very limited capabilities, and we have used some components to build, and we have used images and graphics to build the applications. But in today's area, so there we have the autopilot, there we have the HTML, CSS, JavaScript integrations. We also have the VB.NET capabilities with the UiPath apps, which is very strong right away. So we can build a full-fledged enterprise application. So in this session, we will build a login page with the help of CSS and JavaScript. And This we will show you like how we can communicate with the custom HTML control with other controls so that we can validate the data, or we can take the input with HTML custom control and pass it over to the data services or maybe assets and buckets, right? So you can see that is the editor. There we have one components or control that is called custom control. And there we have a property called open editor. Once you open the editor, you will see this screen. There it is in three different uh, editors you can see here. So first is HTML. So you can put your HTML code here, and HTML code can be anything, like you can copy from any website or put it here in the same way the CSS and JavaScript. But for JavaScript, there's some sort of expertise are needed if you want to communicate with HTML and the other controls, right? So you can fine tune your JavaScript code, but HTML CSS you can leverage the LLM models like ChatGPT or Bard or any LLM model which can produce or which can generate a code for you. So that is all about the theory. Like what we said, we have to cover more on the live development. So we will move on the. So first, let us show you. So there are some prerequisites when you are going to use the autopilot, right? So this is the official document of UiPath, right? So if you are going to use the autopilot, by default it will be enabled for the community edition or the enterprise pro trial. But if you are the enterprise and this capability is not visible to you, you can ask your admin. They can enable the AI trust layer policies, or they can also enable the document understanding license. Then you can have the ability to write a prompt or write a string over there so generate any application. So these are some prerequisites and these are some best practices. Text in images and PDF should sufficient readable for AI, because when we are uploading any document, and it can be JPG or it can be PDFs. So UiPath applies some AI models, right? So that is the reason UiPath is trying to say here you should upload the clear document so that UiPath AI ML model can read the document, right? PDF and images should contain the forms, right? Image should be larger than 50 pixel by 50 pixels and smaller than 10,000 pixel by 10,000 pixels, right? These are some limitations, right? Or if we can say. So yeah, so we are talking about the custom control. We can see there we have the official document here. So we can, after the session, we will share all these URL with you. So you are saying this application we have built 2 years back, that is ChatGPT applications. So when ChatGPT initially launched, so we have replicated this in our organization. So it was the fully functional at that time. When we click on any of the predefined prompts, so we can hit on the enter. So it will generate, or it will call the APIs, the backend, and it will produce the result in the output panel. Similar way, later as we progress, we have built these applications. And at that time, there was not HTML controlled and VBApps, right? So we have built this application with the resources, whatever the resources was available 1.5 years back, right? So these are fully functional application. You can also build the same application for your organization. By clicking on the get code, you can also build this pop-up, and there you can take the input from the users, right? There is no limitation to build the very intuitive applications, right? So it depends upon you and your capabilities, how you are enthusiastic, you can build your application. So let's move on the live application building. So you can see we are on the so by how you can navigate to this page, like you can click on this cubic icon, you can click on this app, then you can navigate back here, right? So here you can see, let me zoom in a bit. So you can see generate with autopilot. There are a couple of options is already there. If you click on this lead capture, the bot will or autopilot will create application for lead capture app, try info collection from the name, email, phone, and submit cancel button, right? And there is one more option. You can create an application with the help of data services. Once I click on this, you can choose your data services, and bot will build the data entry form with the help of data services. So this is the beauty of autopilots. And another thing is you can upload or you can type your prompt. So first we will go with by uploading the images, and let's see how the autopilot will create application for you. So while it is creating the application, I will show you what inside the form, example forms. So you can see this is job application form. There we have some strings, some controls like text boxes or drop down or date controls, and many more and button also. So bot, so autopilot will apply some AI and capabilities and try to read what are the components are there in the form, right? And generate the same or maybe similar kind of application with the help of this document. So you can see it is try to create a same, but there are some tweaks or fine tunings are required in order to make it a same because some controls are there. So and also you can see it has created the entities for you as well. If we want to go back here, excuse me. So you can see so the autopilot is also created an entity for you. So entity name we can find it here job application form. Okay? And in order to run this application, you have to some fine tuning and you have to check the button actions also. You can go here even and create some rules on the buttons, right? So autopilot is only created the form for you and the entity. So entity and form is integrated with each. Okay. And in order to submit the form, you have to write some rules or you have to write some code over in the apply or set button. So we have uploaded the images and autopilot has created the forms. Let's type some prompt here and generate the same application. So I would recommend you can use your chat GPT to generate a prompt. So, you- so I have written some prompt here. So we are going to use this prompt. I can type it here. And if you want to create entity for this form, you can check this box. If you don't want to create entity, you can uncheck this box and hit enter. So you can see the autopilot has created the application without any entity. Okay. So you have seen like how we can create an application like UiPath. It is still learning, like the autopilot is still learning, like to create a intuitive application. So there is some limitations over there. So you cannot have any graphics over there. So once the application is created, you have to use the image binding or the media binding, or you can fine tune your application to add the graphics over there. So it will create a skeleton for you or the forms or application for you. But for further enhancement or UI enhancement, you have to use your own logic or upload your graphics to style the applications, right? So you already have seen all these, like how we can leverage the UiPath autopilot to create the applications, right? Or if you want to create a new application, there are some templates over there. So you can see UiPath is already have built some templates for you. So you can choose any template on your based on your requirement. Like if you want to build the application, the dashboard should look like this, or if you want to build the data entry form, you can choose any template form here as well. So let me choose this one and I can select it here. So you can see you can also use the template to create an application, right? So it is form 4060. You can customize your application. You can change the images associated with your application, right? So that is all about the autopilot. So let's move on to the custom CSS and custom HTML control. So as I already built this application, right? So let me show you like how we can use this. So let me duplicate this first. Okay. So let me remove the control first. So you can use the template and it is there is nothing, right? So there is no control. So what you have to do first, you can go, you click on add control and you can search custom and you can drop it here. So the custom control is here. It's time like how we can make the friendly application or user friendly application, and all the CSS and JavaScript should also apply what you have written, right? So you have to write the CSS, HTML, JavaScript code first. So everyone don't have the like I would not recommend like everyone go and learn these HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. If you have time, you can learn. If you don't have time, you can leverage the LLM or chatbot, right? So it can generate the code for you. So I have written a prompt. So prompt that is like we are generating a HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So we are asking the LLM model to generate the prompt for me. This is the request to generating the prompt only. So let me show you like how we can generate the detailed prompt for generating the HTML and CSS and JavaScript code. So first we will generate the prompt for ChatGPT. So we are writing here to generate the prompt, right? So you can see ChatGPT has generated a prompt for me to create a login page by using the HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So we can copy this from here, and we have another tab open for ChatGPT. And this will generate the complete code for me. This is the HTML code, CSS, JavaScript. So let's copy the HTML first. So you have to click on Open Editor, and you will see some codes are already there. Let's remove these codes, and I have pasted the code which is generated by the ChatGPT. Let me remove the all. Like I said, JavaScript will not fully functional. You have to tune the code. So let's copy and paste it here. Let's see. Let me resize this window. So you can see the application is ready, right? So we have built the login page in a fraction of a second. We have to build the prompt, and prompt will the large language model will generate a code for you. So the UI is ready, but the buttons actions is not fully functional here. So we need to change the JavaScript code so that it should work on our requirements, right? So let me close this. So I already have built one page here. So login page. So there we also have the code, the HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. The only change is here it is the JavaScript. So let me explain the code here. So I have written the code in JavaScript. So in order to take the input from like what we are doing here. So let me explain the code. So we will take input from user. So this is the custom HTML control. So we are passing the value from this control to another control. So we have another control which is outside the custom HTML control, that is label. So how we can check the input the user provided the input which will sync with another controls, right? Because earlier it was not possible, right? So we are using the JavaScript, and JavaScript code we are just pointing the code so that the action whatever the action we are going to write in the login button, it will sync with the different controls. That is the label which are going to use, right? So this is the JavaScript code. What we are trying to do it here, we are taking the input from the user, the username and password, and this value will be displayed on the labels, right? So we are declaring some variables here. So const, we are using the const to declare the variable username, and its type, we are getting the type of this uh, HTML ID. So this is the HTML ID. Let me show you like this the username and the password. It is the HTML ID for username and password controls. So sorry. So here you can see. So we have the control that is text box, and there we have the ID username. Similarly, it is for the password as well, and for button as well. You can see submit. So we are just using the property of this these fields, right? So you can see document dot. If you are familiar with the JavaScript, so you are aware about like how we are getting the properties of any control. So document dot get element by ID. So we are trying to get the value and storing into the username. That's right. And same way we are passing the control value in password and for button. So later we will use this variable to take the actions, right? And we are declaring some variable that is username and password. And here we are creating the function that is called set username and password value. And we are assigning the values, whatever the user entering the text block, the username. So we will assigning this value into the username which we have declared here. Same way we are assigning the password values into the password variable. And we are calling this function here. Then the there we have one function, it's called add event listener. Submit button, we have the submit login button. So submit button dot add event listener. So it will listen the click event, right? And it will pass it to the variables. I will show you like we have created two variables that is called username and password. And these value will assign to these variables, right? So there we have created these two variables. You can see username and password. And these two values we are mapping with the labels, right? You can see the expression here. So we have mapped the value like username with username, variables, password with password. This is just a simple application to showcase you like how you can leverage the HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. And there is no limitation, as I said. You can build any front end application. You can use uh, JavaScript, HTML, and CSS, like you are building enterprise application. So this is a simple example. We are just using the login applications. You can build any uh, AIML applications, like it will directly interact with the integration services. So there is no limitations. Like so, as soon as I click on the login, it will take the input from the user and password and print on the labels. So let me run this process. So let so once I hit enter, So it will print the value. So you can see the synchronization between this custom HTML control. We are taking some values and passing to the different controls, right? So it is not easy. We have to use the JavaScript and take the input and pass the value to the any global variables which we have created. There is another new offering like media binding. So earlier, so we have this functionality was there, but the media containers is not there. So you have introduced the media container where you can store all your media, any JPEG or PNG file. So you have to click on this add controls, sorry, this drop down and click on media. Once you hit the media, so it will automatically populate here. And you can upload a number of images here, like you will require logos or any GIF files or PNG files. You can upload it here. So I have added only one file here. You can click on this plus icon. It will navigate to your. It will pop up your dialog box, and you can choose any JPEG file. So this the use of this media container is like when you are publishing this application as a public URL. So there is types of application, private and public. So your once you public this application, so all the media controls will also embedded with your application. So if you add your logo, it will also show the your logo to the those you have shared with the applications, right? So the use of media control, you can upload your images here or logos, and you can bind this. So I have built the solution for here. So let me bind the images. So to bind images, we have a control here that is called image. So we have added the image control, and there we have a property called source. Click on this editor, and the only things you have to do, you have to type the media. It will be the same, so it will not change for anyone. So it will be the same for everyone. You have to type media. Then whatever the images and their name are there, you can click on dot, and all the listed images within the container, the media container, it will listed in there. So you can choose the login underscore JPG, click on save, and you can see the image is attached with your image control. And once you publish this application as a public application, it will be the same. Like earlier, it was not the same. When UiPath introduced the media control, you can use or attach the images. So that is all about the UiPath apps with custom controls or HTML controls.
Thanks,
So
guys.
now, yeah, now Mish can share your screen and yeah.
Sure. And I think meanwhile, I see we have some questions on chat as well, so we'll try to answer it during the session, and then we'll also cover any unanswered questions at the end of the session.
Thank you, Mish.
All right. So moving forward, the next topic that we have is apps, integration of Action Center with UiPath apps, and how we can create a custom UiPath apps dashboard which you can use as an Action Center task. So let's quickly go through. I hope my screen is visible.
Yes, Mish.
All right. So moving forward, talking about UiPath apps and Action Center task, right? So this is one of the new feature or capability within UiPath apps where you can leverage the UiPath apps to create a custom uh, a, a a page basically which you can use in UiPath Action Center. So if you know, right, UiPath Action Center is usually used to uh, create a task where for human in the loop scenarios where someone has to manually go and manually review uh, the details and then submit, validate and submit, right? So there were different options to do that. Earlier, we had an option to create such uh, tasks using forms, but now we can also do the same using UiPath apps as well. And it becomes really easy to create such tasks using UiPath apps because it has really become easy with the use of Autopilot or media bindings that we just saw, right? Using VB expression that we will see in some time. So basically, UiPath apps now has the ability to create an action app, and we'll have a quick walkthrough of this as well. So, what are the simple use cases of having this UiPath apps for actions? So, first would be, I would say, for any business task where approval or rejection is required from while manually validating the task, right? So, by default, we had I think submit or reject as well when we used human in the loop scenarios for creating action center tasks. But now we can have any I would say outcomes of the action center task based on the business needs. So approve or reject would be the basic one, I would say, and then we can also have outcomes like submit or maybe send for next level of approval or something like that, right? And then we can also create action apps for any data entry, and then any action center task where manual validation is required, where the bot is using LLM models in the background to review whether it's correct or not. So there are different use cases uh, that for which we can leverage UiPath action app. So let's quickly jump to see. Let we'll see how we can create an action center app and what are the prerequisites to have this. Right. So as we know, first of all, we have to build an action app using UiPath apps dashboard. Right. So for this, let's see a very basic application that we have built on UiPath apps. So this is just to give you. So we kept it basic so that it becomes really easy to understand how it works, how we can implement such capabilities in a end-to-end workflows where the bot is also involved, right? So it's a very basic application where we have three fields with the name, credit score, and order value. And the first two, right, name and credit score, will come from a workflow where basically the bot will execute some steps and then it will extract maybe some information and then populate in the action center task. And then the order value can be as a output value where someone manually validating the task can provide the value, and upon approval or reject, it can further flow in the downstream processes. So, in order to have uh, all these fields, right, we need to create an action schema as well. And when we talk about action schema, so whenever we create any application or app, right, we have an option to create an action right here. And we can only have one action at any given action app. So we cannot have multiple actions basically within same app. So for now, I have already created an action. I clicked on it, and this by default you will see one outcome, which will be I guess submit, and then one input property with maybe some sample or something. So what you have to do is you have to basically create a schema based on the business requirement. So for this one, I kept it very simple. I had three basically um, into properties, which is name, existing name, credit score of different types, string, boolean, and integer to cover different aspects of how it works. And then there is an input output property of order value. We can have this as an input as well as output as well. So, and I have kept name as a mandatory field. So what will happen is until and unless this name is provided, we won't be able to submit it an action center task. So talking about outcomes, right? So for this specific use case, we have provided approve or reject. We can have any other outcomes as well. Let's suppose if you want to maybe skip or something, right? So it will have another outcome, and then we can map it. We can bind it in the page as well in the app side. So once the schema is created, this is the prerequisites before starting the actual binding. Once the schema is created, we can map it with the fields that we have with the controls, right? So for name, uh, uh, I have bind it with the name property of the action schema that we have. Similarly, credit score is mapped with credit score property, and then order value is mapped with the order value. Very simple app, right? Whatever we have in the name field will be populated here. Similarly, credit score will populate here, and whatever value the user will provide in the order value will be passed to the downstream process when it is approved or rejected. Now, we also have to add an event as well on these buttons, right? For the sake of simplicity, I have added an event on the approve button where whenever the user will click on approve, it will submit the action, right? So for this, we have can create a rule where we have an option to create an event of submit an action. When we do this, so what happening is in this particular case, basically, whenever a user submits the action center task, the value which the user has provided in this particular order value field will be mapped and converted and assigned to a downstream process, right? So it will be used further as output argument, and the outcome is approved. So that's why we'll select as approved, right? So very basic app, but we'll see how it works. So once we create any an application, right, on for actions, it has to be deployed, published and deployed. We cannot use it like how we usually have with the normal applications, right? So we have to publish it. Once we publish, right, let me just go ahead and do this. I'll just simply publish the app, and once I publish, I'll have an option to deploy it as well. So it has to be deployed in order to use as an action app. Uh, so let's go ahead and deploy it. Right. So once I click on deploy, it will automatically deploy it in the tenant that is already selected. Right. So you can see the current version is 3, and we have an option to upgrade it to the latest version. Right. So, and this will come under apps section and the folder that you are currently working in. You can move this, and you can copy or create any this action any action app that you create in other folders as well on any working folder. Right. So once you deploy it, um, you also need to have action catalog as well if you are aware like how action center tasks work. So action catalog has to be created as well. So let's go to actions tab, and then we'll see how to create action catalog as well. So it is already created, but I'm just giving an overview of the steps. I mean, what is needed in order to complete the integration. So in this particular folder, right, we have the app section, and this is where we can also have a catalog as well because it has to differentiate. I mean, what category it is. So all the prerequisites are done, right? Um, but how how are we gonna use this in a workflow? So that's the second part. So the app is created, the action center task or the integration with action center is also done. So how we can use it in the workflow, right? So there are different options. You can either use it in UiPath Studio Web or UiPath Studio Desktop as well. For the sake of simplicity, we will go ahead with the UiPath Studio Web so that we can quickly integrate it uh, and then see how it works, right? So I have built a very simple or basic workflow using the Studio Web where you can see uh, it will be a manual trigger, and then there is activity called create app task. You can find it here. You see, right? So it's in the recent one only. So this activity basically create an task on Action Center or the application, the app that we created, right? So when we add this, we have an option to provide a title. We can keep any title as per the need. So for this, for now, it's Action Center task for every task that is created, and we need to select the apps as well, which was deployed, and the app version, right? We see the options here in the apps in the drop down. We can select. And these are the hard coded values that I'm providing right now, so that whatever value that you provide here, right, will be populated in their in the action center task, the name and the credit score, right? So we will see these values populated in the action center task once it creates a task. And we also need to provide the folder and the catalog, right? So this activity will create a action center task using the app dashboard that we created. And this is the variable value where the which is used to create the task. And then right after this, we have to use wait for app resume task and resume, because for every human in the loop scenarios, this is required because the persistence activities need to be resumed at a given point of time when the action center task is submitted, right? So the same variable has to be passed. I think so. If you are aware of how the human in the loop scenario work, right? So you will know that the same parameter, same argument has to be passed in the wait for app resume activity. So once we provide this, the outcome of the submission, whether it's successful or failed, right, it will be uh, placed here in this output variable. It is automatically generated, right? And then we can use these output variables further in the flow downstream, whatever values is submitted by by the user, right? Whether it was approved or rejected will come as a part of this variable value. So very simple flow, right? We already created and deployed the apps. Now we have created a simple workflow using the Studio Web, and then we integrated the UiPath apps actions uh, package that we just deployed, and we use it. Right. So when I test it, it will start executing the project, and then in some time we should be able to see that it has created a action center task for us for manual evaluation. So you see, the bot has gone into suspended state now, and it has also created a new task for us in the action center. You can click on this; it will directly navigate us to the action center task. So this is an example, but in real world scenario, it will all happen in the background, right? Where unattended bot runs, it does all the data extraction, validation, and create an action center task. But for this demonstration, we are using a very simple flow just to understand how the integration works. What are the capabilities that your apps have around Action Center? So I have assigned it to myself. You can see the values that were given by the bot during runtime, right? And then there is an option for order value. If I can provide any order value which is needed, so this will act as the output of uh, as outcome of this one, along with the approve or reject whatever will be right. So on approve, it should approve the request, so we can get this confirmation pop-up as well, where it will ask us to whether we want to approve it or not, right? So we want to complete and approve it. Right? Once we do this, the action center task is completed. We can navigate back to the flow. So in real world, it will automatically resume because or any unattended bot that runs in the background automatically resumes whenever action center tasks are submitted. So we'll resume this. We'll see how it goes further. And then we can see the result, right? The action taken is approved, and we can also use the outcome of the parameter that was passed there. So this is all about how we can use the UiPath Actions app capabilities to create human in the loop scenarios and have build very user-friendly tasks. So we just discussed a very simple app, but yeah, we can have a very intuitive or very user-friendly task dashboard as well. So yeah, that's about the UiPath app actions capability. Moving forward, the next topic that we have is VB expressions in UiPath apps, right? This is again a very interesting topic where VBApps helps to uh, quickly create the data bindings with the controls that we have. So earlier, I mean, how we do the VB expression use in UiPath Studio family, right? With Studio Pro and other UiPath products, right? So it really becomes easy for us do the write the VB expression to we handle the complex scenarios in a single line of code and all of that, right? Because earlier it was not possible. So talking about the benefits or examples, I would say how where you can use the VB expression could be some of these. This is not just limited to this, but this is just an example of how we can use VB expressions in UiPath apps. So I would say we'll also cover some of these examples in the next demo that we have. So we can set the property values of app elements such as labels or text or other text boxes that we see, right? Any uh, app elements that we see, we can have a dynamic value of it using VB expressions. So we'll see this how we can do this, and then you can also manipulate the data that is available in data services, right? So we can use query builder for that, which is a really nice, I would say, feature within UiPath apps that really helps to create data for data manipulation for data grid and all. So we'll see that as well. Another example will be to use the control the visibility or enable disable the app elements, right? In case we have to disable any button, right, based on the output of some other conditions. So we can put a condition basically so that the elements can only be visible at if the condition is met. So we can do all of that using VB expressions very easily. We'll see that as well. Another example of this would be defining validations rules, right? So we can have custom rules defined to validate the details which are being entered by the user, and then it happens very at the runtime, right? So it's very fast and robust as well, with very minimum efforts at our end. So we can use this to validate the email addresses or any format, data format, right? Maybe use for phone numbers or address or something like that. Right? So we can do validation rule as well. And another example of this would be we can use VB expression in conjugation with the condition statements if and or switch activities to control the flow of actions and create a very complex, I would say, app with very minimum effort, right? So this can also be achieved using VB expressions. And another example of this would be we can have enable dynamic content generation within app as well, where we can have uh, the value output right from any existing uh, control that we have. So we can have dynamic content generation as well based on that. Uh, Talking about the data types that are there, right? So when we talk about the basic data types, list, array, string, integer, date, time. Actually, these are basic data types that we have, and these are some of the VB expression codes that we can use in UiPath apps to create the to make use of VB expressions to simplify the processes of data mining and all. Right, and then we have list control as well of different types of complex scenarios where we have choice sets. Right, we have to select some value from a choice set in the from data services and all of that. We can use link queues as well to filter the data and all of that, right? So these are some of the examples that is there where we can use query builder as well. We'll see the examples of these in the upcoming demo. And we are also we'll also share the link to the cheat sheet which is available to your path portal, which can really help you to create your own you can create basically with the expressions based on the scenarios that you might have, right? Maybe you want to filter something uh, from uh, from a list of data, right, from an array or something, and you want to get the value of selected item. You want to multi-select from a list of source, right? Maybe an arrow or what. So you can get the VB expression from this cheat sheet, and you see here, right? So you have a data in the form of numbers as a number of array, the list of array, I would say, and then we have also a list of string as well, where we have uh, certain data. Right? We can add any data that we want, and then we'll see how it works. We can also add any words as well, and then it will add it in the data, and then you can see how it works when we sort it, or and how the sort function works when something happens, right? So based on that, this cheat sheet will be really helpful if you want to start using the VB expressions in your Path apps, right? Talking about the next slide, which is any query. So we'll come to this later. All right. So we'll discuss the how we can use VB expressions in your Path apps, right? So to start this, let's go to the apps again. And then we'll cover the very basic. So we have created two dashboards where you will see how the basic VB expression works, and then how we'll also see a data grid, or how we can use edit grid to quickly customize your data for data manipulation, and how it will really enhance the user experience as well. So first one, right? To create a IT ticket form. So we'll see how we can have the data binding using VB expressions. So this is a very basic app where we can have the user will have to provide a ticket number, the status of the ticket, the email address. So whatever email address that we provide, right, it will be validated with the data set that we have available in the data services, right? So you see this one, right? So this is nothing but an example of query builder. So it is already created. So the query builder really helps to create, I would say, so let's copy this. So this helps to create a expression for us to get the record from data services. When I delete this, I'll be able to use the query builder because now it's not there. Right? When I do this, I have an option to select the customer record from the customer. Uh, so we are basically setting the ticket. So we'll use the entity which will store the customer tickets. Right. So when I click on this, it will create uh, the expression for us, right? So right now, so it will basically get the details from the customer entities. Let me just show you the entities first. So we have two entities, basically two data services where the customer data is stored and the customer ticket information is stored. Let me just open, right. So we have customer data where we have two user information available, right? And we'll see these two user information available on the apps as well once we run it. And then in the customer tickets, we have some set of data available as well. We will see how we can leverage or how we can add or delete or modify it during runtime using apps. Right. So these are the entities that we have. And when we talk about the data binding, right, with these entities on the user action, so whoever, when the user is going to provide the ticket number in this field, it will be mapped with the customer ticket entity, right, over there. So you can see the value that is there, right? So we can also provide any validations as well if this is required, and what has to be the exact what the user has to input in this one. So we'll see this and open date, right? So you see this by default it will have today's date and the field. So we have provided a default date as well. So what will happen is on so this create ticket will only be enabled once the validate action is completed. So if you see, right, the otherwise it will be disabled. So this is also another easy expression that we can use um, to enable or disable the buttons or any other entity as well. So based on whether the ticket is created or the customer ID is equals to the GU ID, right? So this is where we are comparing the email ID, right? So once it is validated, once all the information, mandatory information are filled, only then this button will be enabled. So this is one example of using VB expression. And okay, so I think you can preview it and then see how it works. All right. I think we are over time, but I think it will be done in next 2 or 3 minutes, I guess. So you see, right, we can provide, if I don't provide anything, it will show us a validation error, whatever we saw there, right? So I can provide the ticket number, the status, the email address as well. If I provide any invalid email address, it will throw an error that the email address is not valid, the customer not valid. So I have to provide the correct email addresses and then validate. So once, if it is available, it will also validate the email address, right? I can have a date picker to pick the any value. So the issue category is coming from the choice set that we have given in the data survey. Right? So we can also support the document. We can upload the documents here as well using file picker. So once I click on submit, right, create ticket, it will create a ticket for us and it will do the data entry in the data service. So you see right in the customer ticket, we should see a new data being created, right, for ticket 122 with all the information that we see. So this app, I mean, we saw right how we can have the expression to enable or disable the elements at UiPath apps, how we can have the validation as well, and all of that. Right. So these are very basic one. And then the other part of it is using the edit grid. So this is where we will cover how we can do the data manipulation using edit grid. So again, you see, right? So this particular block is nothing but the edit grid, where we can just simply have it from the control section over here. So having edit grid really helps to create a dynamic table for us where we can have the data and we can manipulate the data using the query builder. So we'll see how to do this, right? So you see, the data source is the entity that we have. So the data source that we have here is the customer tickets entity, you see, right? And this query builder this was created using the query builder. So if I remove this, and if I use this query builder and use the customer ticket, right? And I can also provide any condition as well, whether we want to have any specific condition where tickets are open, right? Only those maybe let's see, the current status is open, right? We can have only those customer tickets shown on this table. Right. So I'll remove this for now maybe and I'll just save it. It uh, will create the query for us within few seconds, right? So we don't have to manually type everything. And it will also map it with all the information that we have here. And then let's suppose you want to have, since the issue category is of type uh, that's all. So edit grid is, I mean, using query builder in edit grid really helps to do the data manipulation very quickly. In the issue category, right, you see, I guess, so we already binded the data, right, using the query builder. So what will happen is it will show us the data based on uh, the event that we create. So as of now, only four type of events can be created using data grid. Nothing use will be sufficient for any business use case. So we can have uh, a event created whenever the user select the row, when the row is added, a row is modified, or when the row is deleted. So we can have different set of events. So let's suppose whenever the user try to delete or delete any entries from the data grid, it will invoke this particular event in case any entry is deleted. And it will basically, it will we can provide here, I mean, which entity has to be used to delete this particular entry, and then we have to provide the unique ID as well, which item to delete from this entity. So when it's deleted, it will also show a message as well that it is deleted, right? Similarly, we can have other rules added as well whenever the user want to add any new row directly from the app. The user will have the capability to do this. For this, we have mapped the all the value which the user is providing right on the current. So all the current status, email, and or whatever column names that we see, right? The user will have an option to provide all this information, and whatever information is provided will be mapped with the value set that we have. So this is in the customer ticket entity only. So the mapping is done based on whatever the information is provided by the user. Right. So this is to add it, and then again for modify, we can have this particular event, then and we can map the information whatever the user is providing. So this is it. When we preview it, right, we will be able to see how different events are being invoked based on whatever steps that we take, right? And it will also update the data in the data service. So as you can see, the screen has loaded, and right now we have 12 entries. Uh, One of the other benefit of using data grid is we can also have a pagination support where we can have a number of data, right? We can have 10 records shown at this particular given point of, and then we can have the rest of the data on the other pages as well. So it becomes really user friendly whenever when you want to access or create any such dashboard and make use of edit grid, right? So let's suppose if you want to delete any particular entry, right? So let's suppose if you want to delete the ticket number 101 from this particular data grid, I can just simply click on remove and it will delete the record, right? So this is deleted and it will also delete the record in the data service that we have. So we deleted 101, right? So we should only have the 11 entries now. So it becomes really easy to integrate using edit grid, any entities that we have on the data service with the help of edit grid and by using the query builder, it becomes really easy and you can have the data binding very quickly done. Earlier it used to take a lot of time, but now it becomes really easy, right? So delete we covered. There is also an option to edit any existing record over here, right? And we just have to maybe when we do this, we have the option to update. And once we update this, the ticket number will be updated for this particular entry. We can also have a control to add a new data as well. So or whatever task that we are doing here, right? So an event is triggered in the background, which we just saw. Based on this event, the data is being manipulated in the data service entity. It is being added, it is being modified, it is being deleted. So it becomes really easy to do the data binding with the data service entities and using the VB expressions, we can quickly create an app with such complex scenarios. So that's about VB expressions. So that's also sums up the today's session that we have. So we covered your path actions, uh, uh, autopilot, and we covered HTML, CSS, JavaScript integration. We also covered uh, VB expressions and UiPathApps. Right? So these are some of the capabilities that we covered. We are open to have any questions that you might have. We will try to answer any questions that you might have on chat as well. And these are some of the useful links that we will share with the group so that you can have a look at uh, the demos that are available on GitHub. This is really helpful if you want to get started with, I mean, you want to learn something and customize something which is already available, right? These are all out of the box samples. These are not available within UiPath apps, but you can go ahead and use it from GitHub. And then demo summary. This is available at the official documentation of UiPath to see uh, what are the different demos that are available around UiPath capabilities, the recent ones. So we'll share this in the group as well in some time. And yeah, that sums this today's session. And any questions from the participants that we would have? No? All right. So this is the WhatsApp group of Valencia chapter. You can scan this QR code and you can join this WhatsApp group to interact with the community members. So this is not just limited to the Valencia group or the people from Valencia. Anyone from uh, throughout the globe. I mean, anyone can join this group and be a part of this community where we discuss a lot of ongoing events and all of that, right? And just a quick update around the upcoming events that we have in Delhi and SA. So we have very interesting webinar series coming up around SAP automation using UiPath. So you will see a lot of uh, webinars around SAP automation and different technologies of SAP automation. So you can feel free to register for these upcoming sessions, which are starting Monday next week, and be a part of this series to understand more about how we can do SAP automation, how we can do different technologies of SAP can be automated, right? All right. Um, any questions? Any questions that is unanswered on chat? Let's have a look. Okay, so most of the questions are answered. I think we have questions from people that what.
No, Umesh, I don't have any questions. Yeah, just now, based on your session, definitely we will try that new things. If you have any questions, definitely we'll contact you.
Sure. Sure. Okay. I hope you find this webinar helpful and you got to know about the upcoming capabilities, I mean, the existing capabilities and how we can leverage it on the solutions.
Yes, exactly. Thank you.
So session recording will be available maybe by tomorrow. It will be available on the UiPath community page on YouTube. And on the same event page where you registered for this event, it will be available on that page as well. And feel free to register yourself for the upcoming sessions as well around SAP automation. And you can be a part of those webinars where experts from PSP will showcase how to do the SAP automation using best practices. All right. Thank you so much to all the participants for joining this session. Uh, we close the session if you do not have any other questions. All right. Thank you.